Competing for the first time since reaching the Australian Open final, Rafael Nadal will play his opening match at the Mexico Open against Mischa Zverev. The Spaniard is going into the tournament chasing his third title at the ATP 500 event. However, his two victories at Acapulco were before the event switched from clay court to hard court in 2014. Nadal has a 14-1 record at the Mexico Open, winning 28 of his 30 sets at Acapulco. Last time the top seed played at the tournament, he suffered a straight sets loss to Sam Querrey in 2017. When is Federer's next match? When does Kyrgios play next? Sporting News has you covered for everything you need to know about when Nadal's next match is. Competing for the first time since reaching the Australian Open final, Nadal will play his next match against Mischa Zverev on Tuesday, February 26 at the Mexico Open. Who is Rafael Nadal playing next? Nadal will take on 31-year-old German Mischa Zverev at the Mexico Open. The Spaniard has beaten his fellow left-hander in straight sets in their two previous meetings, including the first round in Acapulco 2 years ago. Both encounters took place in 2017 where Nadal won 6-1, 6-1 at the Brisbane International, and 6-4, 6-3 in Mexico. However, the second round at Acapulco could see the Spaniard face talented Australian Nick Kyrgios, who has defeated Nadal twice in their previous 5 meetings. Kyrgios would have to defeat Italy's Andrea Seppi to set up the encounter. Rafael Nadal talks retirement, golf, and Nick Kyrgios' Nadal's comeback 2 years ago was one of the best stories of 2017, right up there with Roger Federer's. The two veterans shared 2 Grand Slams each that year and soared back to the top of the ATP rankings. Injury had threatened to derail his career, but the 32-year-old has no intention of retiring just yet. Read more about his plans for the future, and see what his outrageous handicap is, right here. Rafael Nadal gives Nick Kyrgios huge compliment. Nick Kyrgios put on a show in beating Nadal at the Fast Four in Sydney last week. Although he cops criticism at home, Kyrgios received some huge praise from Nadal. Read more about it here. Nadal gives funny post-match interview. Speaking after his first round win over Duckworth, Nadal was asked for his thoughts and the next generation of players coming through. His response had the crowd in stitches. Read more about it right here. How Nadal won his 11th Roland Garros crown after recovering from his hip injury suffered during the Australian Open. Nadal helped the Spanish Davis Cup team to a victory over Germany in their quarterfinal of the World Group. Later, he successfully defended his Monte Carlo Masters title without dropping a set and won a record-breaking 31st Masters title. This helped the Spaniard become the player with the most Masters 1000 titles in history, and also marked his 11th title in Monte Carlo, as well as the 76th title in his career. Nadal then went on to win his 11th title in Barcelona. With this win, he became the first player in the Open era to win 400 matches on both clay and hard courts. It was also his 20th ATP 500 Series title, marking his 14th consecutive season with at least one ATP 500 title. However, in a bid to retain his No. 1 ranking in Madrid, Nadal lost in straight sets to Dominic Thiem in the quarterfinals, ending his 21-match and record 50-set winning streaks on clay. In the process, he also relinquished his world number 1 ranking to Federer. He didn't stay down for long, winning his 8th Rome Masters title and his 78th career title, defeating Alexander Zverev in 3 sets, overtaking John McEnroe in 4th place on the list of most titles won in the Open era. It was Nadal's 32nd Masters title, and he also regained the number 1 spot from Federer. In what seemed like a heartbeat, Nadal cruised to an unprecedented 11th French Open title after dropping just 1 set all tournament, beating Thiem in the final. With the win, Nadal tied Margaret Court's record for singles titles at a Grand Slam event. Court won 11 Australian Championships. The French Open win was Nadal's 17th Grand Slam title, and he became just the 4th man in the Open era to win 3 or more major titles after turning 30, joining Federer, Rod Laver and Ken Rosewell. What injury did Rafael Nadal have? Nadal was forced out of his Australian Open quarter-final showdown with Marin Cilic in January. At the time, he was expected to have a few weeks off to rehab the hip complaint before returning to the tour. That plan was going along nicely until the Mexico Open in Acapulco, where Nadal was a late withdrawal, despite being in Mexico. He also withdrew from the Indian Wells Masters and Miami Open due to an injury. However, despite his absence in Miami, Nadal regained the #1 ranking in April due to Federer's second-round loss. Most recently, he withdrew from the Paris Masters because of an abdominal injury, and later the ATP Finals with knee complaints. Ankle surgery brought an end to his season.